So one of the reasons that I'm starting the Realtorpreneur brand is because a lot of real estate agents especially go into business and they don't understand the fact that when you become a licensed sales associate, you actually have started your own business. One of the things that's very important for people to realize, and people ask me this all the time, I don't correct them because to a certain extent, I associate with the brand of Keller Williams, but I don't work for Keller Williams. I broker my deals through Keller Williams. My company is Cheesette Cowan LLC and Cowan Global Enterprises LLC. Those checks that I get paid come from whatever entity is paying me, whatever title company written to me personally as a company. Keller Williams gets their portion for brokering the deal. And I say that because that is an element of business that people don't understand. So they struggle in real estate because they expect something that they are the ones that are supposed to be providing. For example, I've heard agents say, well, Keller Williams doesn't give me any leads. Yeah, they don't, because you don't work for them. You broker your deals through them because legally by law, the law says you have to broker your deals through a brokerage. The brokerage is there to protect the integrity of the profession, to make sure that you're dealing honestly and fair, to make sure that that the profession basically maintains the utmost respect and at the highest level of professionalism. So the broker is there to guide you in the nuances of the everyday business journey that are hard to maneuver so that you can win and create win-win scenarios. And I think Keller Williams is the best to do that, just because one of the things that they do is teach business. So I coined the term Realtorpreneur because I'm not just a real estate agent. I am an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur before I became a real estate agent. I have sold everything from Mary Kay to insurance. I'm a licensed life and health agent. I've sold insurance. I've sold newspapers. I've worked for Yale University selling scholarship packages. Like, there is nothing that that's not sales driven, that's not attractive to me internally. So that makes me an entrepreneur. But the entrepreneur is also putting systems in place so that you have duplicatable models and business systems that if you were to take a hit today, that your business could still function because you have, quote unquote, a business Bible that somebody could come in and really pick it up and take that vision and run with it. Part of what has really led me to Keller Williams, and really that keeps me connected to Keller Williams, is the fact that Gary Keller, I think he's like a mad scientist of some sort, but the business models and systems that he's created as an entrepreneur, for me, I admire them. So for me, it's about how to run a business. Now, because I'm in real estate, I happen to be a realtor, but now it's literally like marrying those two, right? And that's the part that people don't understand. So when they're doing things in business, they are doing things like, I'm just in a sales business. You are in a sales business. Get those two terms together. You're in sales and you're in business. You need to operate at least a functional capacity in both. You can't just be sales driven, because if you're just sales driven, then you're not going to have processes to measure your profit and loss. I can't tell you how many realtors I know that don't know how much money they spend on marketing, promotion. They don't know how much time they spend on lead generation. They track nothing because they don't look at it as a business. They look at it as, I'm in sales, and as long as I meet my sales goals, I'm good. But here's what that mindset does. You meet your sales goals and that's good, but tracking will help you become more efficient so that at certain points, at certain pivot points, you can go to the next level. See, business is about doing what we do today, but then always thinking about what we're doing today. How is it working? Is it working effectively? Can it go to the next level? And that's why when I tell people that I coach and I consult in business, I'm not coaching you on sales. Everybody already has sales pretty much down pat. We know what we need to be doing. That education is out there. But what is really the disconnect is the mindset that I have to have as an entrepreneur and how I need to blend that with sales. So the real estate industry has given me an insight, not just into real estate per se, but just the fact that these are the same principles that apply to any business. So the lady that was doing my makeup this morning, she's a makeup artist, and I was talking to her about product. I was talking to her about long-term strategy. I was talking to her about creating passive income. And you would think because I'm a real estate agent that that's not my interest, but I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur first. Real estate just happens to be the thing that I choose to sell. I can sell insurance, I can sell newspapers, I can sell, IBM computers. If you tell me how it works and why people need it, and I have a general understanding of the product, I am going to be able to sell it. But not only that, I'm going to be able to look at the industry around it, to look at the business around it and create something that's duplicatable, that's going to allow me growth year over year over year. And I think that's really what separates real estate agents that are in it for a minute and real estate agents that are in it for a lifetime. So there's like that moment versus, the momentum. So for me, this is a momentum thing. I'm building up to other things. I have a 5-year plan. Most real estate agents don't even have a 5-year plan. Thank you to my business coach, and we're going to talk a little bit about coaching, but I have a 5-year plan. I know in every year what I am doing and what it's going to culminate into. That is part of business planning. Our office, thankfully, we have business planning clinics. So we're able to lay down a business plan and what we need to do to be successful. But the average real estate agent doesn't have that. They don't even have it laid out that this is what I'm going to do every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. When they come into the office, they don't know what they should be doing, how long they should be doing it, if they should be tracking it. These are things that when you look at a business, I study businesses. So let's just get into this. This is why I study companies. So I study companies because my first passion is business. Right? So I study companies like Nike, like Amazon, always the people that are functioning at the top or at the upper echelon, so to speak, of their industry. So when I look at Amazon, Amazon has processes. They have business processes in place that if this happens, then this happens. And this happens, and this happens. All those things trigger something else to happen. So for me as a real estate consultant, so to speak, a realtorpreneur, I have business processes in place that when I write a contract for somebody, they get an automatic email that says your contract has been submitted. If somebody texts me and they say, hey, I want you to write a contract, they get an automatic email. We are in the process of processing your request. Because those things are duplicatable business systems that when people come into my business, there's a level of excellence that I want to duplicate. Because I'm not going to be the one running this all the time. There's going to be a time that this is handed off to somebody else. And when that happens, if you don't have duplicatable systems and business models in place, you are going to struggle. It is going to be tough. So the reason why a lot of real estate agents struggle, because they're not thinking business. So they're not even thinking about the customer experience, what has to happen to the customer. They're thinking, I just need to be there for them all day and all night. No, you need to be the consummate professional. You need to be the one that anticipates what's going to happen. One of the things that greatly helps me in my business, especially when I'm working with sellers, is I let them know that it's my job to think about this transaction, not just getting you on the market, not just getting you under contract, not just getting you past inspections, appraisals, etc. I have to think about this contract from me meeting you now to you getting that check in your hand. I have to anticipate everything that could possibly happen, and I have to plan for it. And if my thing is, if it's predictable, it's preventable. If I can guarantee or know that there's a possibility of this happening, I should have a system around it. If I don't have a system around it, it's not the issue that sneaks up on me. It's something that happened that I haven't given attention to. That's on me. And that's the thing that a lot of real estate agents, I write down everything. I track everything that happens in a transaction. And if it happens more than once, I put a process around it. I have a Trello board. My Trello board has transactions, and everything that comes up that's a hiccup, everything that comes up that works well is noted. And when I hit it, I'm like, okay, that's once. Okay, that happened twice. That happened 3 times. Okay, yep, this needs a process. We have to address this proactively so that now we're able, that's the consummate professional. And then I tell people when I list your house, that's what I'm bringing to the table. I am bringing to the table the experience that the average realtor is not bringing. They're listing your house and they're putting it on the market and they're hoping they get a contract, but they're not anticipating, okay, what happens when we get under contract? I see this house has, so now I go through and do an inspection of the house. I didn't used to do that before. Okay, I can see you have this kind of panel. This kind of panel is not going to pass insurance compliance requirements. So let's address this beforehand so it doesn't become an issue. Or even if we don't address it because, hey, the house is being sold as is, even if we don't address it, I need you to understand that this could potentially be a problem and we need to start working on a solution now. This is before we sign paperwork. So now when they see me, they see somebody that's empowering them, that is helping them, so to speak, helping them look at things in a different way. And that is something that is a customer service experience, not so much a real estate experience. What led me to do that is my background in business, because I like the way businesses do business. And it's amazing how when I see a lot in the industry, I'm like, man, like maybe you need to take some business classes first. So I pay for real estate coaching. The first coaching that I ever spent money on to the tune of, thousands of dollars was business coaching. It wasn't sales coaching. I know how to sell. Could I get better? Of course I could get better. Am I like the top salesperson in the world? No, there's always room for improvement. But I understand that if I create a sustainable business model and I understand how to do business, that will begin to create a profit measure that once that is good, it can just kind of move on its own systematically. And then during that time, I can focus on the sales. I do focus on those two together. So I'm actually coincidentally just signed up for my sales training with Glover U. The sales training is literally just focused on sales. But to me, the business came first because I'm an entrepreneur first. I'm a realtor second. And that's the part that I think a lot of people are missing. So when I coach my clients, when I coach and I do consulting with businesses, it's more about your business model, your profit and loss, how you structure your business, what you do with your money, how to measure profit and loss and not just revenue. People think just because money comes into their business that it's profit. It's not profit. You have the cost of business, which is your phone, your car, your this, your that, whatever it takes for you to do business. And then you have your cost of sales. That's the expenses that you pay as a result of having the sale. For us, it's referral fees, it's MLS fees. MLS fees kind of like a cost of business, but like referral fees and block boxes, all those things that happen only when you get a sale. Only after you factor in those two things can you even begin to determine what profit is. So just because you make $10,000 from a real estate commission, if I see that you have bought something with that real estate commission that has a $10,000 value, I already know you playing games. You're not doing business, because business money filters through the business account. And then I, as an employee, am an expense of the business. My salary that I pay myself every 2 weeks is a business expense. It's tax deductible from the business perspective. I pay taxes on it as a W-2 employee. But now when I look at what comes into my business, revenue is just money in. When I look at what comes into my business, I have to calculate all the expenses attached to it. Part of that is paying me. Part of that is paying referral fees. Part of that is I pay for office space. Part of that is I pay for meeting space. Part of that is I pay for phone line. Part of that is I pay for a dialer. All of these things have to be reconciled, so to speak. And that's why you need an accountant. That's why you need somebody that's going to track your wins and losses, your profit and loss. Now, just because I know this, I'm not the best person at tracking stuff. I have a company that I hire that we meet every week and we go over everything that hits that bank account. I make sure I don't do anything outside of business, outside that bank account, because when we sit down every week, it's like, what is this for? What was this expense for? Where did this money go? Where did this money go? So now every month when they produce the profit and loss statement, I know how much I spent on marketing. I know how much I spent on photography. I know how much I spent on things like this. I know my numbers. I also know how much money I brought in. So I know that the money that I brought in can be the expenses that I paid out can be deducted from the money I put in. And the number after those two, that's my profit. And that's how taxes work. A lot of people don't know that, but you don't pay taxes on the money that you give to your business. You pay taxes on the profit. So if you don't know that, I'm like, what are we doing here? And a lot of people have no interest to learn this. Like, they have no desire to learn it, but it's like, you have to understand this part, because this is going to be one of the driving forces in whether you sustain your business in times of feast and in times of famine. So part of my business model is I am lean all the time. It doesn't matter how much money I have in my business account. That money is to be reinvested in the business, not spent by me. There are things that I do, coaching, consulting, that bring in a different and steady stream of income for me, but the business money belongs to the business. Now, later, I can decide what I want to do with the profit. I can reinvest it into the company, which 90% of the time I will, or I can decide whether I want to distribute it to the employees. And if you ever see a company that gives you like when I worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield, we got a bonus every year. That's basically them taking their profit and investing it back into the company in the form of employee bonuses. So employee bonuses are things that only happen when the company is profitable. The company has to turn a profit. And if you don't understand this basic level of profit and loss, you're not really in business. You kind of have a hobby. But also, if you don't understand this level of profit and loss, you're going to feel like you're winning or look like you're winning when you're really not, because you'll have money coming in and you'll look at it like, oh, I can go buy a car. I can go do this. But the reality is, in 3, 4, 5 months, if you don't have a closing, you haven't sustained it where your bills are steady every month, that you have a certain portion that goes out. So now your income has dropped off, but your expenses have went up. And then that's how you find yourself in the red. And then that's when an entrepreneur says, I got to go get a job. See, I can't do that, right? I have employees. I have people that depend on me for a source of income. So I've got to be responsible with everything that I do. I have to plan for the future. I have to make sure that these things are in place, because that's what the assignment that I took on when I became a leader. So for me, when you understand this, you are able to now really walk into your business and say, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say no to that, because you know what you're working toward. This is the part that I think separates the good from the great, and the business owners from the self-employed. I always tell myself I'm working through that cash flow quadrant. So you start with the cash flow quadrant. You're probably familiar with the cash flow quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. It's employer, self-employed, business owner, investor. So employer is I have a job right now, right? I work for me, right? But I have a job. A job means that I have to show up and exchange time for money. If I don't go to work, I don't get paid, right? So the only difference between an employee and somebody that's self-employed, the employee doesn't own their job. As the self-employed person, I own my job. So I have a little bit of flexibility, but that also means I work harder. So I'm working myself out of a job. That's what I tell people, because a business owner has systems in place, and those systems continue to generate income whether you show up or not. I'm not at that stage yet, but I do have, systems and things in place that generate passive income for me. But that's why everybody that I coach, every company that I do consulting with, I always talk to them about passive forms of income. I have listed out the top 15 ways to make passive income, and I, do everything to create those products, from, my publishing company to online courses to product. Like, you really have to think in terms of, how can I create another stream of revenue doing what I'm already doing? So I'm not saying do something different, because part of the other thing that we're going to talk about is focus. You got to be able to focus on one thing. But everything that I do falls in the entrepreneur umbrella. And for the most part, sometimes real estate, but it falls under the entrepreneur umbrella. So I'm not out here doing business trainings and then selling Mary Kay too. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but for me, I need to focus on one thing, because focus is what separates, again, the good from the great. And my thing is, I don't want to be average when great is on the table. Like, why do I want to be average when I have the opportunity, the ability, the insight, the wisdom? I have the charge from God to be great. Why do I want to be average? And the thing is, I don't even want to surround myself with average people. If you want to be average, you keep that. I'm not doing that, because too many people have invested in the ability for me to be great, in creating an environment where I could be great. Too many people, right? So I'm going to go and be. I saw this shirt. It said, "I'm my ancestors' wildest dream." Like, that is like my mental is that I want to be that person that when Rosa Parks sat on the bus and said, "I'm not getting up," I want to be that person that she thought that I'm sitting for. I want to be that person. I want to be that person that inspires people to know that they can do anything they put their mind to if they create a system that allows it to function the way it should. So this brand is something that is near and dear to my heart because it is truly who I am. It's not something that I created because, oh, it sounds good. This is my life. Like, this is my passion. This is my thing, right? And I know everybody talks about niche makes you rich. This is my niche. And although it's kind of, it's very many compartments, a lot of varied components, it really just falls under the umbrella of entrepreneurship. And I'm super excited that you are just in my world and just watching this video and want to know more about it.